And well, joining us at this moment is Bramha Chellaney, Professor of Strategic Studies at the Centre of Policy Research, who joins us live now. And Bramha Chellaney, your first thoughts about the government's bold decision there to abrogate Article 370 and, in effect, Article 35A this morning, that process still going on in Parliament as it needs to be ratified inside Parliament as well.
I think you rightly described it as bold. It's really a bold move. It's a legacy-shaping move. It'll have a profound impact on J&K and J&K's relationship with the rest of India. It will certainly facilitate closer integration of J&K with India, because Article 370 had become the main stumbling block to J&K's full integration with India. So the partial revocation of Article 370 is a step that will facilitate J&K's full integration with the rest of the Union of India. As far as Article 35A is concerned, it is a misogynist law. It was a presidential order inserted in the Indian Constitution in 1954 without any parliamentary debate or vote. So the removal of Article 35A is a victory for the women of J&K, who thus far have been barred from transferring citizenship rights to their children or their spouses if they were to marry foreigners, that is outsiders, foreigners from the J&K perspective. So this misogynist law, Article 35A, will no longer be applicable, and that is good news certainly for the women of J&K. The purpose of Article 35A was originally designed to prevent non-residents from becoming permanent residents of J&K, and there was a bar on them on non-residents from acquiring immovable property, from holding government jobs or getting government scholarships.
Right.
So there'll be a level playing field now.
Yes, absolutely. Bramha Chellaney, but you made an important point about integration, and that is essentially the important thing that needs to be done going forward. We haven't really heard from voices in Kashmir as of now. We have heard from Kashmiri politicians who are not very happy about this. But this integration process is certainly going to be very, very long, and it requires a lot of patience, and of course it will need a lot of political depth as well.
You're absolutely right. Let's compare J&K with Pakistan-held Jammu and Kashmir, which, as you know, comprises two regions. One is the so-called Azad Kashmir, another is the sprawling Gilgit-Baltistan. Neither Azad Kashmir nor Gilgit-Baltistan were granted by Pakistan special powers and privileges like India granted J&K. In fact, Pakistan treated both Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir as its colonies. And through demographic change, Pakistan has assimilated both Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Kashmir. For example, Azad Kashmir has more Punjabi-speaking people than the natives. And Gilgit-Baltistan, where the Shias were a majority, they have been reduced to a minority in their own homeland. So, looking at what Pakistan has done to forcibly assimilate the areas that it occupies, India could not have continued with its special rights and privileges for J&K indefinitely.
Right. Bramha Chellaney, hold that thought. We're also joined by R Jagannathan, a senior journalist, editorial director of Swaraj. Mr. Ranganathan, thanks very much. Jagannathan, I beg your pardon. Thanks very much for talking to us. As Bramha Chellaney was saying there, that of course, strategically, this is a very important decision. But going forward, how do you see this playing out in Jammu and Kashmir?
Actually, we'll have to look at it in two halves. One is the hard part, which is that by giving the army and the security forces a very strong voice now in how the state will be sort of pacified and kept within law and order control. That part is going to be very critical in one half. But the other half is we need to win over the hearts and minds of the people. They will obviously be angry and sullen at this point because they've been sold a pup in the form of the Article 370, and they thought it was something substantial when actually it was not. So we've got to compensate for that and say, look, you're not going to lose your special Kashmiriyat. The problem was you lost your Kashmiriyat by opting for Islamiyat and driving people out of the valley. Now we are restoring your Kashmiriyat. Now we are not going to threaten you and inundate you with Indians who are going to settle there. We are just trying to keep a level playing field where your identity will be protected and your jobs and opportunities will actually improve, because now you have the whole of India for your market. You have the whole of India which will welcome you with open arms in its institutions and its markets and everything. And so the reverse also, you just look at the kind of boom Kashmir Valley will face once it integrates with a booming economy like India that's growing at 6.5% to 7%. So even in this bad time, it's doing well. So I think we need to explain this point properly and help them understand that we are not suddenly going to settle a million people and make them into a minority in their own state. But this process will take some time. It needs both the hard part and the soft part. I think both will have to work together.
Right. But, Mr. Jagannathan, there's no real right time to make such big decisions. Do you think that at this particular point, this was the right time and moment to make a decision this big, given the fact that we have heard from the government itself about the security situation, a very delicate situation in Jammu and Kashmir, given also that Pakistan has, of course, intensified ceasefire violations. They've gone to the US with a whole host of issues. How do you see this? The Pakistanis also, of course, announced that they're going to be taking this issue up with the UNSC.
Yeah, actually, there is, as you say, there is never any right time. But I would say at this particular time, when the world is in a flux, this is the best time to make bold moves, because at a time when everybody is keen to intervene in your affairs, that's the wrong time to go. Today, the US is trying to extricate itself from Afghanistan, so it needs Pakistan. But Pakistan will be trying to consolidate its western borders by trying to have a say in Afghanistan. That's what it will be trying. So it's less likely to create trouble on the eastern side in the short run. I'm not talking about the long run. It will still send adequate number of jihadis here. That will continue. Second thing, let's not forget the domestic political situation. It is when your main opposition party, which could have stopped everything in its tracks, which is in disarray, that is when you can actually move these kind of legislative changes which will be accepted by Parliament. You saw the rush of bills that went through in the last few weeks. Now, this is the most important one, and this would only have been done when opposition is in disarray. So the domestic timing is also right. The third thing is, if you actually look at it, there are other reasons where, there is a domestic base that the BJP needs to worry about, which has been upset that, okay, they have been looking at all kinds of economic issues, but our agenda, which is 370 and all these other things, uniform civil code, those are not being done. But Modi has started work on one part of it where I think the triple talaq bill is now passed. Now 370 comes in. So I think you need all these different constituencies to be in alignment, and that's why this is a great time to do it.
Okay, very important point. Bramha Chellaney, do you agree with what Mr. Jagannathan is saying there, that this, there's no real good time, but given the fact that a particular vote base has also to be kept in mind, this is the second phase of the BJP government. The first is always, more important, and you have flexibility to make more important decisions, which you cannot make in the last year of your governance, given the fact that election season kicks in, that the government has the mandate to make the decisions that it came and promised to make.
Well, I agree with Mr. Jagannathan on the points that he raised. I wish to add one additional point, which is BJP's newfound ability to maneuver a majority in Rajya Sabha. That is critical. The fact that Modi in his first term could not enact any legacy-shaping laws. Now in his second term, having manipulated a majority in the Rajya Sabha, he wants to act early on and build a legacy for him and his government. And I think this is a very courageous move on his part, coming so early on in his second term. The timing is very good. The Congress is in a dilemma because some of the Congress leaders have spoken out very vehemently against this government move, including Gulab Nabi Azad and P. Chidambaram. But the rest of the party is in a serious dilemma because they don't want to be seen in the country as opposing something that much of India is welcoming. So this puts the Congress on the horns of a dilemma. I won't be surprised if they decide not to participate in the voting in Parliament in order to save face. But for the BJP, this is a masterstroke politically. And I think in terms of the security situation in J&K, let's not forget that nearly 30 years of Pakistan sponsorship of a Islamist insurrection in the Kashmir Valley have made the continuation of the status quo untenable, indefensible, and unsustainable. So it was high time that some government in New Delhi decided to change the status quo so that the security situation can be handled firmly. And so turning J&K into a union territory, minus Ladakh, which is the main chunk of J&K, Ladakh made up 55% of the territory of J&K state. So the separation of Ladakh by itself is very important because a large chunk of Ladakh is occupied by China. The whole of our Sky Chin Plateau, which is the size of Switzerland, is in Chinese occupation. But the remainder J&K, especially the Kashmir Valley, which makes up only 15% of the territory of the state of J&K, that has been the source of trouble for the rest of the state and for India. So turning that into a federally administered territory and getting a firm hand on security policy making and security decision making is a very smart move on the part of the union government to get a firm handle on the security situation.
Right, absolutely. And Mr. Jagannathan, then, that you do agree at this moment, then, that the political and demographic landscape of Jammu and Kashmir is set to change with this decision that the government has taken, a bold decision, a decision that had to be taken at some point in the decades-long, Article 370 has been going on forever. It was supposed to be a temporary transitional thing in the Constitution, but it stayed on forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and very few people like Bramha Chellaney have had such clear-sighted vision on Kashmir for such a long time. The important thing now is, as he also mentioned, that I think keeping it as a union territory, at least in the foreseeable future, is vital because that allows the center to directly take care of the security situation. It also allows them to offer benefits to the population in terms of better governance, which the local politicians would never have been able to do. A third thing is, the problem is the local politicians were never capable of winning over their own population in favor of better integration of India. Now, once you reduce the threat of the terrorists to even the local politicians, whether it is Omar Abdullah or the PDP, you remember in the Khalistan movement, the Akalis and all could not start being more nationalist as long as the Khalistani gun was trained on them. It's only when those guys got eliminated, then suddenly the normal political voices started speaking in normal tones. So even in terms of the local leadership, this move is vital because without making the local guys be able to find their own voice, which is more moderate, they will talk the language of separatists, and therefore it is vital to break that vicious cycle of more terrorism, more frightening, more this thing, and that's being done. And I think maybe Kashmir could become a normal state, a regular state with regular powers equivalent to the other 28 states now. Once this process of integration happens, maybe after 5 or 10 years, I can see that. I mean, right now it probably has the same powers as Delhi, which is minus land and law and order, you run a state.
But do you think that it is politically untenable at this point for most of the opposition parties to not support this, as Bramha Chellaney was saying, that the mood has changed and the mood is to take more proactive action on things that have been languishing forever, given the fact that the security situation, as you both have said, hasn't really changed in Jammu and Kashmir in so many years?
Yeah, see, overall the national sentiment is in favor of integration, barring a few discordant voices here and there. So I think the Congress and the parties that oppose actually are making a huge political mistakes. Even the Janata Dal United, I think Nitish Kumar has a tendency to make the wrong choices at the wrong time, and that's exactly what he has done. This is a very popular thing in the rest of India and probably in Bihar, but he has now chosen not to support this move. But I think it will take a couple of years to get the security situation and the sullenness of the local population entirely on a positive direction. And that is what, in the next 2-3 years, we really have to make sure that it happens, even while we safeguard the borders from Pakistani intrusions and all those bad teams and all that are up to creating trouble.
Right. And Bramha Chellaney, of course, just to play the devil's advocate here, and the opposition, of course, says that the move is unconstitutional, that it is unconstitutional, it wasn't done in the way it was supposed to be done. But we've also spoken to constitutional experts who say that when it comes to the bifurcation, yes, the Parliament's approval and ratification is needed, not so much for the scrapping of Article 370. Where do you stand on it? Where do you think that the government could have done this differently, if at all?
Well, there are two things here. First, it's interesting to note that several opposition parties, like Telugu Desam, Mayawati's BSP, the Aam Aadmi Party, are supporting the government's move on J&K. Even the government would be surprised by their support. So this really underscores the fact that much of India is welcoming the leveling of the field. This grant of special rights, powers and privileges to J&K was seen across much of India as being not in tune with the ground situation, because the situation in J&K had changed fundamentally because of nearly 3 decades of Pakistani sponsorship of an insurrection and the ensuing terrorism. And people in India, by and large, felt that maintaining special rights and privileges for J&K was not right because the situation demanded a different approach altogether, and especially considering the fact that Pakistan, in the occupied territories of the original state of J&K, far from granting special rights and privileges to Azad Kashmir, the so-called Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, actually treats these areas as its colonies. So for India to maintain this kind of special status for J&K was no longer sustainable. Look at how China is suppressing dissent in Tibet. It has changed the demography of Tibet. It has flooded Tibet with Han Chinese people. Right. India, on the other hand, is doing the opposite, maintaining the special character of Kashmir Valley, even as the Kashmir Valley came under the power of the Islamists, with the rule of the gun prevailing in the Kashmir Valley, which, as I mentioned earlier, is only a small portion of the whole state of J&K, just 15%. But that small region, Kashmir Valley, was holding the rest of the state hostage.
Absolutely.
So this move of the government of India, both from a constitutional standpoint as well as from a political/security standpoint, makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But it's a bold move, a move that demands that the government of India now assume greater responsibility, because the onus will be now on the government to maintain law and order, to ensure that security situation does not deteriorate, that mob violence and riots do not happen. So for the government of India, that is the federal government, the responsibility really increases.
Right, absolutely. Well, Bramha Chellaney and Mr. Jagannathan, thanks very much both for joining us this evening and sharing your thoughts on this all-important decision, this very bold decision taken by the government of India. Well, Sumit is here with us in the studio for how the markets are reacting to this news.